Education in Northern Ireland differs from systems used elsewhere in the United Kingdom, although it is relatively similar to Wales. A child's age on the 1st of July determines the point of entry into the relevant stage of education, unlike England and Wales where it is the 1st of September. Northern Ireland's results at GCSE and A-Level are consistently top in the UK.At A-Level and BTEC Level 3. One-third of students in Northern Ireland achieved A and distinction grades in 2007, which is a higher proportion than in England and Wales. Administration. The Department of Education is responsible for Northern Ireland's education policy, with the exception of the higher and further education sector, which is the responsibility of the Department for the Economy. The Department of Education's main areas of responsibility cover preschool, primary, post-primary and special education, the youth service, the promotion of community relations within and between schools, and teacher education and salaries. Its primary statutory duty is to promote the education of the people of Northern Ireland and to ensure the effective implementation of education policy. Education Authority. The Education Authority is responsible for ensuring that efficient and effective primary and secondary education services are available to meet the needs of children and young people, and support for the provision of efficient and effective youth services. These services were previously delivered by the 5 education and library boards until the creation of the Education Authority, which assumed these roles in 2015. Classroom 2000, on behalf of the authority, is responsible for the provision of information and communications technology managed services to all schools in Northern Ireland. Each of the former ELBs is now a sub-region of the Education Authority. Curriculum. The majority of examinations SAT and education plans followed in Northern Irish schools are set by the Council for the Curriculum, Examinations and AMP assessment. All schools in Northern Ireland follow the Northern Ireland curriculum, which is based on the national curriculum used in England and Wales. At age 11, on entering secondary education, all pupils study a broad base of subjects which include geography, English, mathematics, science, physical education, music and modern languages. Currently there are proposals to reform the curriculum to make its emphasis more skills-based, under which, in addition to those mentioned, home economics, local and global citizenship and personal, social and health education would become compulsory subjects. At age 14, pupils select which subjects to continue to study for General Certificate of Secondary Education examinations. Currently it is compulsory to study English, mathematics and religious studies, although a full GCSE course does not have to be studied for the latter. In addition, pupils usually elect to continue with other subjects, and many study for 8 or 9 GCSEs, but possibly up to 10 or 11. GCSEs mark the end of compulsory education in Northern Ireland. At age 16, some pupils stay at school and choose to study advanced level as an A2 level subject to more vocational qualifications such as applied advanced levels. Those choosing as an A2 levels normally pick 3 or 4 subjects, and success in these can determine acceptance into higher education courses at university. 11+. Northern Ireland does not operate with the transfer test anymore. This follows a decision by Catriona Ruane, the Minister for Education. A movement for reform was successful in doing away with the transfer test. However, the majority of grammar schools have decided to set their own entrance exams. There are 2 types in Northern Ireland: AQE and GL assessment. Controlled schools. Controlled schools are under the management of the Schools Board of Governors and the employing authorities of the 5 education and library boards, although now open to those of all faiths and none. Many of these schools were originally Protestant church schools, whose control was transferred to the state in the first half of the 20th century. The three largest Protestant churches, known as the transferors, maintain a link with the schools through church representation on controlled school boards of governors. This statutory representational role on boards of governors is set out in Schedules 4 and 5 of the Education and AMP Library Board Order 1986. Under this order, for example, transferor governors comprise 4 out of 9 members on a controlled primary school. This right of representation on controlled schools is being re-examined under the Review of Public Administration. The RPA has proposed the removal of this statutory role for transferors on the ground that it purportedly contravenes the equality requirements of the Northern Ireland Act 1998. The Transferors Representative Council, speaking on behalf of the three churches, argues that this proposal will remove the Christian ethos from the controlled sector of education, Catholic education. There are 533 Roman Catholic managed schools in Northern Ireland, according to figures from the Department of Education for 2009-2010. The number of pupils registered at school in Northern Ireland is 321,830. The number of pupils attending Catholic-managed schools is 163,371, approximately 51%. The Council for Catholic-Maintained Schools is the advocate for the Catholic-maintained school sector in Northern Ireland. The CCMS represents trustees, schools and governors on issues such as raising and maintaining standards, the school estate and teacher employment. As the largest employer of teachers in Northern Ireland, the CCMS plays a central role in supporting teachers, whether through its welfare service or, for example, in working parties such as the Independent Inquiry into Teacher Pay and Conditions of Service. Exempt from fair employment legislation, it is permitted to discriminate against non-Catholic teachers. The CCMS supports trustees in the provision of school buildings, and governors and principals in the management and control of schools. The CCMS also has a wider role within the Northern Ireland education sector and contributes to policy on a wide range of issues such as curriculum review, selection, preschool education, pastoral care and leadership. There are 36 council members who oversee and authorize the strategic and operational policies and practices of the CCMS. Council members are appointed for the duration of each council period for 4 years. Membership to the council is by appointment and recommendation. Council members receive payment for travelling and incurred costs only. There are 4 categories of council members. Department of Education representatives, advertised through the press for these positions. Trustee representatives, recommended by Northern Ireland bishops. Parents representatives, drawn from a local community on a voluntary basis. Teachers representatives, drawn from the teaching profession on a voluntary basis. Established under the auspices of 1989 Education Reform Order, the Council's primary purpose is the provision of an upper tier of management for the Catholic-maintained sector with the primary objective of raising standards in Catholic-maintained schools. Integrated education. Although integrated education is expanding, Northern Ireland has a highly segregated education system, with 95% of pupils attending either a maintained school or a controlled school. Controlled schools are open to children of all faiths and none, as are Catholic schools. Teaching a balanced view of some subjects is difficult in these conditions. The churches in Northern Ireland have not not been involved in the development of integrated schools. The schools have been established by the voluntary efforts of parents. The Northern Ireland Council for Integrated Education, a voluntary organisation, promotes, develops and supports integrated education in Northern Ireland through the medium of English only. The Integrated Education Fund is a financial foundation for the development and growth of integrated education in Northern Ireland in response to parental demand. The IEF seeks to bridge the financial gap between starting integrated schools and securing full government funding and support. It was established in 1992 with money from EU structural funds, the Department of Education (E), the Nuffield Foundation and the Joseph Rowntree Charitable Trust as a financial foundation for the development and growth of integrated education. The fund financially supports the establishment of new schools, the growth of existing schools and those schools seeking to become integrated through the transformation process. Funding is generally seed corn and projects are pump-primed, with the objective of eventually securing full government funding and support. Irish language medium education. The Education Order 1998 placed a duty on the Department of Education, similar to that already in existence in relation to integrated education through the 1989 Education Reform Order, to encourage and facilitate the development of Irish medium education. Pupils are usually taught most subjects through the medium of Irish, which is the second language of most of the pupils, whilst English is taught through English. This form of education has been described as immersion education, and is now firmly established as a successful and effective form of bilingual education. It aims to develop a high standard of language competence in the immersion language across the curriculum, but must also, and can, ensure a similar level of achievement in the first language as that reached by pupils attending monolingual English medium schools. Irish medium schools, or Gael Scoileanna, are able to achieve grant-aided status under the same procedures as other schools, by applying for voluntary maintained status. In addition to freestanding schools, Irish language medium education can be provided through units in existing schools. Unit arrangements permit Irish language medium education to be supported where a freestanding school would not be viable. A unit may operate as a self-contained provision under the management of a host English medium school and usually on the same site. There are currently two types of Irish medium schools in Northern Ireland. There are standalone schools, of which there are 27, and there are Irish medium units attached to English medium host schools. There are 12 of these type of school. In addition to this, there are two independent schools teaching through the medium of Irish. These are Gael Scoil Gleandarach in Crumlin and Gael Scoil na Dawaj in Derry City. Comhail na Gaels Collauchter is the representative body for Irish medium education. It was set up in 2000 by the Department of Education to promote, facilitate and encourage Irish medium education. One of CNAG's central objectives is to seek to extend the availability of Irish medium education to parents who wish to avail of it for their children. School years. Primary education. Primary school foundation stage: Primary 1, age 4 to 5, Primary 7, age 10 to 11. List of primary schools in Northern Ireland. Secondary education. Secondary school or grammar school. Key stage 3, year 8, age 11 to 12, year 12, age 15 to 16. Secondary school, grammar school, or further education. College 6th form, year 13, age 16 to 17, year 14, age 17 to 18. Note that although the Department of Education uses year 8 to year 14 for secondary education, the traditional 1st, 5th form, lower 6th and upper 6th are still used, at least informally, by some schools. List of grammar schools in Northern Ireland. List of secondary schools in Northern Ireland. List of integrated schools in Northern Ireland. School holidays. School holidays in Northern Ireland are considerably different from those of Great Britain, and are more similar to those in the Republic of Ireland. Northern Irish schools often do not take a full week for half-term holidays, and the summer term does not usually have a half-term holiday at all. Christmas holidays sometimes consist of less than 2 weeks. The same applies to the Easter holiday. This does, however, vary considerably between schools. The major difference, however, is that summer holidays are considerably longer, with the entirety of July and August off, giving a 2-month summer holiday.